Hello, welcome to another edition of Hobby News Daily. I'm still Danny Black, but today I'm joined by Evan Parker, CEO of Mantle. What's
Hey,
going on,
Dan.
Evan?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. So, first of all, I asked you to come on because I think you've got a tremendous product platform out there that I think people think it has to do with Mickey Mantle. So, first of all, it's Mantel.
Yep.
And I want people to know that because they should be going to mantle.com, on mantle.com, right?
On Mantle. Yeah.
On mantle.com and at on mantle everywhere and checking it out. So I wanted you to discuss it today because I have a very good friend of mine who is not easily impressed, who's very impressed. And so I wanted to hear from you kind of how this project got started and what it is. So give me the elevator pitch and tell me what I need to know about Mantle and on Mantle.
Well, I appreciate the kind words. We're trying to build a community platform, a social network for collectors. And the idea being that the places that we're all spending our time online, whether it be Discord, Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, forums are not great. They're not built for collectors, and they don't give us the types of tools to make conversation that easy, to make showing off the things that you have that easy, to make looking up information and getting more background on the things that you collect, meeting other people who like a lot of the same stuff, could be experts, could just be friends. It's just not that great. And, nothing has really been built for the hobby from a communication and community platform sense. And so we think we have an opportunity to go out there and create something that'll allow collectors just to get deeper into these hobbies that we all love. And we're building it not just for the sports card space or the sports memorabilia space, but collecting in general. And so if you're somebody who is a comic book collector, or you collect TCG, or you collect stamps, coins, over time, we're going to be building more and more features that give people like that an opportunity to come in and have those interactions. If you're somebody like me, I collect a lot of random stuff. You can see it in my background. If I was bold enough to show you what the floor and the desks look like, you would see just all types of stuff. And so I'm the type of person who couldn't go to the existing forums and be able to scratch every itch that I have in the collecting space, because I'd go somewhere for my sports card world, somewhere else for cars, somewhere else for watches, somewhere else for comic books. And it got overwhelming. And we thought there was a better way to bring people together about the collector themselves versus just the collectible type. And as you called out, Mantel, we wanted to name it after the mantelpiece, where you would show off the things that you love the most, collectibles that mean a lot to you. But I'd be lying if I didn't say that there's not a subtle nod to Mickey. And I think just given what he has meant for the sports world, but also clearly from the collectibles world, it just felt like this was a nice homage to him without necessarily naming a business after him and having to hear from the lawyers from his estate.
Well, all the good things always go on the mantle, so I think that
Right.
that works out very well. Um, you are the leader on the Mantle points leaderboard.
I am, yes. And so we have a leaderboard. For those who haven't been to the site, we have a leaderboard. It's sort of karma points, or the more interactions that you have, the more points that you accumulate. It's really just a way to help people who are spending a lot of time on the platform kind of get something from it. I am the leader. We're working on a little product switch that eventually I'll just be deleted from it, so my stats won't show up. I should be the leader. I'm on this thing all day, every day, and I have since the day that it launched. Before anybody else knew that it existed, I was accumulating points, so it's not quite fair. I hope one day there are people on the platform who have way more points than I could have ever accumulated on my own, because of how passionate they are about what we're building. But yes, right now I am in first place. I'm in first place by a relatively wide margin too.
I was about to say, I think you're pulling a secretariat with the field here.
Yeah, but you can't blame the field for that. That's my fault. I had a head start at Secretariat, who got to was a furlong ahead before anybody else got out of the gates.
So, what is your average day from the collector standpoint? Forget the fact that how do you forget the fact that if you can forget the fact that that it's your passion and your life, what is your interaction daily as a collector?
I've always spent a lot of time on message boards, not posting a lot, but I've been a lurker for a very long time on a bunch of different boards across a bunch of different collectible types. as I said, I collect a lot of different things. I'm not a completist. I'm not the type of person who's like, I need the rainbow, or I'm checking the set registry, trying to get everything done. That's never been me. I'm pretty all over the place, and I might start somewhere and say, okay, so an example, Crystal Palace is my Premier League team. And for a little while, I was buying a lot of Crystal Palace stuff, thinking, hey, that nobody else really cares about it because it's not that great of a team. I can get things for cheap. There are a lot of players. There's a guy on the team that plays on the U.S. national team, Chris Richards. I can buy a bunch of his stuff. I can get autos, I can get numbered cards, and I can get them for a song. So let me keep buying those. And then I start seeing on Twitter and on Mantle people talking about Type 1s. There's a bunch of people on Mantle right now who have been buying up Type 1 photography. So all of a sudden I had to go get Type 1s. I haven't opened it up yet, but I have my first is in here. And that'll be opened up later today. So, then I get into that. And so I think I bounce around a lot. I don't want to call myself impulsive, because I am not throwing money out, and I'm not just buying things, without thought. But I get really interested in things. If I hear a good story, if somebody can explain to me why something is interesting or cool, it's hard for me not to get excited by it. Especially if it touches on things that I have personal interest in, which, growing up in LA, it's LA teams. It's big basketball guy, really like golf. I've got a lot of things that I'm just passionate about. So I spend a lot of time, I have for years, trawling Instagram, not trolling, trawling Instagram and Twitter and blowout forums and places like that. And just trying to learn as much as I can about these things, and trying to get to understand what sort of the motivations are of other collectors, and why they buy the things that they buy, or like the things that they buy, or like the things that they like. And the thing that I love, I think, the most about collecting in general, or meeting other people through it, is that everybody's got different interests. And it's fascinating to me from where I sit to be able to see kind of why people are interested in the things that they're interested in. And if I look at your background, I see a lot of stuff that I may never own myself, but I can get a window into who you are based on the cards that you collect, or you got the bobblehead, the art. Like now I have a better sense of who Danny is than I would if you had a Zoom, one of those Zoom backgrounds and I couldn't see. And I think that's what makes this hobby so unique.
At what point did you realize that this was a story business as much as a product business?
Way before it was a business for me. I've spent my whole career has been in and around content. And so storytelling is the thing that's kind of been the through line with everything that I've done. And I've worked on a lot of projects in the past, well before Mantle, where the only thing that made something interesting was the story behind it. Because if you looked at something from face value, maybe it didn't get you excited. But if you knew something more about it, I worked in NASCAR for 8 years. And you can watch a race and love it, but if you've never seen a race before, then you don't know what's happening you can't understand what's going on the track. And so, what's the story behind it? It's the rivalries, it's the technology, it's the strategy, it's the history of the race, it's the nostalgia, it's all those other things. And working on content for NASCAR, it was all about trying to figure out how we could tell the best story, so that when the cars got on the track, you were already invested in it. You already cared. You already had a driver who you were rooting for. And even if it wasn't the best race, you were going to walk away with something positive about that experience. And it's been that idea. I worked at The Athletic for 4 years, and that was all about storytelling. It's breaking news and talking about sports every day. But how do you do it in a way that actually gives more information to the reader, or to the sports fan, helps them be either more entertained or more educated about what they do? And that's always been my thought from a collectible standpoint. I got really into cards as a kid, like probably everybody watching has. I got into watches when I had enough money that I could afford one and I could tell time. But for me, it was always about, and I could tell time before I could afford one, but it was always about the story behind the watch. What is this thing? Why am I wearing it? What is it? It's not just that there are a couple numbers on the dial and there's a couple hands. It's like, this one was made for this purpose, or this thing brings this emotion. And that's always been the thing at the root of all collectibles for me, is the story behind it, not the actual item. Because at the end of the day, it's a piece of cardboard, right? None of this stuff has intrinsic value. The value that it has is the story. And that people like us say this thing is important, that thing is less important. So this thing, by virtue of the fact that we like it, we think it's important, it's going to be worth more money, or it's going to be held on a higher standard than these other things, right? I mean, if you look at cards, like, why is one of one of a really good player worth less than another? Or why is one that's not one of one worth more than one that has, that's more rare? It's because of the story. It's because of the community.
I have always felt that there's a collector's gene, that whether it's sports cards or watches or art, that there's definitely a gene in collectors. And I think you see that, up and down families, you'll see collectors, even if it's not the same item.
It's interesting. I believe in sort of the collector's gene, but I don't know that if it's like that it's a dominant gene. It can, in some families it is.
Yes.
Nobody in my family collects, at least to the level that I do and that I care about. My dad grew up in New York in the 1950s and 60s. He had cards. He didn't hold on to them. He didn't collect enough. When I think about the things that I'm into today, and had my dad who was getting to go to Yankee Stadium or getting to be around with all of these incredible athletes in basketball and baseball and football, it wasn't something that he was that into. If he was buying watches back then, the collection that he would have now would be unbelievable. And it just wasn't something that he had. I've been into this stuff from when I was a little kid, and I don't know that it was passed down, but it was something that just felt innate in me. So I believe that it's a gene, but I just don't know if it's like one of those hereditary genes that you get, that gets passed down, if it's just something that some people have and some people hold on to and other people may not.
Do you think that did you get from your dad the stories, the sports, any of that?
Yeah.
Kind of your background to get into
Absolutely. My dad's a massive sports fan to today. He's in his mid 70s, and up until he had neck surgery last week, up until then, he was playing pickup basketball multiple times a week with people half his age. Like, he is a basketball junkie and a sports junkie. So I've always had a real connection to sports. And I think that through that, I got into collecting and I got into cards, because he would be talking about basketball, playing basketball. We'd be watching games. And as a kid growing up, especially when I did late 80s, early 90s, if you're not playing, if you're not able to go to games all the time, it wasn't like we had Sports Center on 24 hours a day in my house. How do I connect to these sports? I read the box scores in the paper in the morning for games that I wasn't allowed to watch or I wasn't up for. And then I go to the card shop and I go grab a bunch of packs and I go try to get the players that I care about and get more into the world that I kind of inhabit. And cards was my connection to it. And I don't know that that's what made me a collector, but it's certainly the way that I got deeper into the sports world as a kid was through cards, because I wasn't going to play, certainly not at the level that you need to continue playing for the rest of your life. And I wasn't always going to be able to watch, but I always was able to connect to these athletes and to the sports world through the collectibles.
And the stories, once again, tie right back in.
Exactly.
Exactly. So tell me, you grew up where and who'd you root for?
Grew up in LA, which is where I am now. I have always been a huge LA sports fan. I'm a massive homer, and I've been lucky that I've been able to be a homer for a town that has pretty good sports. So the Dodgers are, if I was ranking my teams, the Dodgers are the one that while they have let me down a lot, they've always just held such an important place in my life. Lakers, UCLA, Bruins have always been massive for me. I grew up as a Raiders fan when the Raiders were here. When they left, I was not a lapsed NFL fan, but I was sort of a NFL fan without a home for a lot of years. My wife now works for the Chargers. So the Chargers have been my team, even though I grew up not liking the Chargers given the rivalries. And recently I've gotten into soccer a lot more. And so Crystal Palace has become my team. It was a bad choice. I love the team, but I probably should have chosen one that wins a few more matches.
My son is an absolute bandwagon soccer fan, and
who's his squad?
Man City.
Yeah, I mean, but look, there's not a lot of honor in choosing teams like that, but there's a lot more fun, and at some point, you just have to go with what's fun.
Well, every time he turns on a match, I just walk by and I go, "Foden's the best player on the field." And he goes, first of all, it's a pitch, and second of all, no, there's like 7 people better than him, and
I love it.
So that's our rivalry.
I love it.
Yeah, because I have learned through his stories and through his passion to love another sport and to learn. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things is I would assume you would hope that your users would be able to learn from other users.
Yeah, and I apologize. My cat's like running around trying to mess with the dog. So if it's loud on your end,
quite all
the
right.
Work from home life that we all lead. But yeah, I think you're right. Like letting collectibles or letting so I always feel with sports fandom, and going back to NASCAR, when I would bring somebody to the racetrack, I'd always tell them pick a driver. Doesn't matter who. I will tell you about everybody who's going to be racing, and let me tell you enough about them that you can pick the one that you're going to root for. you're going to have a much better experience if you're doing that. I think that there's something similar with collectibles, that if you have something, if you're into something, if you got a little bit of a collection, did a break a couple weeks ago. I got a Corbin Carroll card. Okay, I know he's a big name in the hobby. I'm a Dodgers guy. I don't root for anybody on the D-backs, but I've got this card now. Now I'm a little bit more invested in him than I was before. And I think that that's something that I think makes, that with collecting, that you can have a connection. It almost helps you manufacture a connection to what's happening on the field, what's happening on the court, in a way that isn't necessarily as possible if you just turn on the TV, and that you hope that you're going to have a good time.
Yep. I'm a big believer in collecting things around, we call them PCs.
Yeah.
It's always been my collection. I don't know who had,
That's how I am.
But I like collecting. First of all, I PC Koufax, so I'll just share a little Dodger love with you there. But
I've got
multi-sport athletes. I love collecting multi-sport athletes. There you go.
I just picked this up a few weeks ago.
Here's my box.
Love it.
And like Bo Jackson and Brian Jordan, and Dion and Babe Dietrichson and Dave DeBuscher, and all these guys that played in multiple sports. And they're not, all those cards are not expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Doing the Koufax run is a different investment than
Sure.
the multiplayer run. But I like sharing the stories the same. So if I go on to classic social media and I just share something, I'm going to get 3 people who are going to tell me I made punctuation mistakes. I'm going to get 4 people who tell me the player sucks anyway.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to get, a couple of people who are going to like my post. So what's a different experience? When I'm on Mantle, what is the different experience?
Danny, I couldn't agree more. And it's something that we're working so hard with everything that we do with Mantle to make it a positive experience for collectors. And when I say positive, I don't mean that if you post, Sandy Koufax and I think that he was a bum, that I have to say, oh, that's amazing. If you have a card that's in bad, like it doesn't mean that we have to tell everybody it's not a participation trophy place that you get a round of applause every time that you post. But these are things that people like and they're passionate about. And just because you like something I don't like, just because you did something that I wouldn't have done myself, doesn't mean that you're wrong for it. You may have overpaid. You may have purchased something that's not the better version of it. Well, who cares? You like it. We want to make sure that Mantle is like that. Now, look, it's early on in our life cycle. We don't have millions and millions of users. And I think as a business grows and you get more people on, eventually you get the trolls, eventually you get the jerks, eventually people are going to come on who are not going to operate in the way that I would hope that they would. But early on, the people who are coming to Mantle are searching for a place that they can go where they can talk about the things that they love without ridicule. And they can post about the things that are in their PC. They can ask questions, not have anybody say, you don't know that, you're an idiot. We have people coming on all the time and say, hey, I am trying to go through my first grading experience and I don't know which grading company I should go with. What do people think? Nobody's saying, oh, you don't know? Then you don't deserve to get your cards graded. You're an idiot. Go throw them in the river. Like that. That's not the way that it goes. People are saying, look, give me a little bit more information. What are you looking for? Do you want something to resell? Do you want something that's just going to look cool? Do you want something that's going to have more technology and AI or whatever? And people are taking the time to help people understand more about the collecting world and cards in general. And that's the way I am. I look at my desk. I don't know what I've got here. I've got a 1959 Comic Suites Jesse Owen card.
That's actually a cool card. Yeah.
This, I can't, less than $50, right? Like this wasn't an expensive card. I can't remember exactly what I paid for it. And I can't remember why I left it on my desk for so long. But as somebody, for me, like this is amazing. This card is from the 1950s. It's Jesse Owens, who's a legend. It's a beautiful card. It's in good condition. I don't want to go post that on Twitter and have people say, well, you shouldn't have gotten that one. You should have gotten this one, or that's not a good card. And that's a reproduction of this or that. I just want to be able to get into the things that I love and find other people who like the same stuff and are going to build me up and are going to want to get into this with me. And Mantle has so far been incredibly positive in that way. And I love that I can be vulnerable and ask questions to people. I'm the CEO of this thing, and I'll be the first to tell you, I'm not an expert. I talk to people every single day who know way more about card collecting than I ever will. And that's not because I don't have the qualifications to do what I'm doing. It's because there are people who have dedicated so much of their lives to this and just know so much more. And it's an impossible hobby to know everything about. And you can't expect that every time you post online, you will be the expert. And even if you are, you're going to get people in your mentions telling you you're an idiot, no matter who you are. I see people all the time posting. I'm like, that guy knows a ton. And somebody's still going to tell them that they're an idiot. And I want to make sure that when you go to Mantle, you never feel that way, and you feel like you can ask questions, you can show off the things that you have, you can just have a conversation, and people will maybe they'll debate you, but it'll always be respectful.
Well, it sounds a lot better than what I get at home. Because now that you describe it, I feel like my house is Twitter, and maybe I need to go to Mantle and have some more positive support in my life.
Come on, hang out. I really think that the feedback's been great. Everybody who's come on has said that this is something that they feel like is different and helpful. We have a card database, so you can look up the price of your cards through Card Hedge. We've got what we call the mantelpiece, so it's your display case, so you can show off the things that you have in your collection that you want other people to see, so they can have a better sense of who this is. Danny Black. These are the things that he collects. We're continually adding features every single day. It's not perfect. There are a lot of things that I feel as a collector when I go on, I wish that we could do this, or this doesn't really work for me. And every single week we're releasing new features and we're making it better. It's a very small team. We've only been at it, we launched on February 13th. So it's very new, and we need feedback from users who come on and tell us, I think that this would be better if it was that way. This doesn't work for me. I don't have all the answers. The team doesn't have all the answers. We really want the feedback from the community and use that to help make this thing better for people who collect in different ways. And so, my hope is that people give us a shot, because it's easy to poo-poo it or ignore it. And I understand it's not going to be for everybody. But I don't think that people on Twitter are all that happy and love it. I don't think that people on the message boards feel like that they're that responsive and easy to use and intuitive. I don't think Discord is all that easy to find rooms, and it can be intimidating and tough to navigate. Instagram has its issues. All of these platforms have their issues. I'm not saying Mantle doesn't have issues, but we get to build it, right? You get to send me an email or I said this, with John Newman, when you send something to, support at onmantle.com, I'm the one who responds. We don't have this massive team of customer service and engineers and designers and marketers. It's a really small team, and everybody's working really hard to make this thing good. And we want the collectors themselves to help us shape it. We're not going to assume we know all the answers. And if you have an idea, we can put it on the roadmap. If you don't like something, we can take a look at it and see if we're going to change it. And I think that's pretty unique.
So if somebody wants to put their toe in the water, check it out, what do you recommend? Was it going right to the website, social media?
Yeah, I would go to the website. It's super easy. It's onmantle.com, OANMANTEL.com. It's free. If you sign up for a username, you can grab your username, and because it's early on, you can get things that you wouldn't be able to get otherwise. So people with their first names or their favorite username, what you had back in like your instant messenger days, you can go grab that and squat on it. And again, it's free. You can interact immediately, post, engage, put cards on your mantelpiece, look up cards through Card Hedge on day one. I think that's the easiest thing that you could possibly do. But we're at On Mantle on all of our social accounts. So that's Twitter, it's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's TikTok. We're going to be putting out a YouTube show pretty soon. And so there are a lot of ways to engage with us. But I think the most fun is to get in there and mix it up with the community and start interacting. And if you have friends who love to collect, I always feel like this stuff's better when you know people and when your friends are on there as well. So I would just encourage people to, if you want to make this great, come with a couple friends and let's start building communities within the community.
I love it. And like I tell people about Hobby News Daily, if you're happy, tell a friend. And if not, make sure you send me an email.
Right. Exactly.
So, well, Evan, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And you've made a user out of me. So I will be on there showing off some of my stuff later. Not that that will help your business at all, but
it will.
At least Newman will heckle me politely. And
I love it. I appreciate you having me on, Danny. I appreciate you hearing me out and telling your viewers about what we're doing. I really think that people who go to Hobby News Daily every day, this is what it's being built for. It's for that type of collector who really loves this stuff and considers being a collector part of their identity and part of how they like to spend their time every day. And you know, just like you just said for yourself, you don't love it, let us know. If you do love it, tell your friends. Let's just try to make something that we can all really find fun, interesting, and different.
sounds fantastic. Evan, thank you so much. I really
Thanks,
appreciate
Danny.
your time.
Appreciate you.
Everybody else, catch you next time on Hobby News Daily. Thank you.